Today I'm going to show you how to make a Dungeons & Dragons birthday cake for his 16th birthday.
Hi, I'm Amanda Gulik from Clever Dough Cakes, and if you love baking cakes, learning yummy new recipes, and fun cake decorating ideas, then make sure you click subscribe and hit that notification bell so that YouTube will let you know the minute my next video comes out.
My daughter Xanthi helped me make this Dungeons & Dragons birthday cake for my son Quinn for his 16th birthday. She started by baking 2 vanilla sponge cake recipes. Now, as you can see, they are different sizes, and that's because she learned while making these that you really want to fold in the egg mixture together at the end and not put the flour in with the egg yolks at the beginning. You can check out my video to see exactly how to make this sponge cake. After the 2 cakes had cooled, she removed them from the baking pans and removed the parchment paper. She bumped the 2 cakes together and then trimmed away the edges to make a nice, smooth cake game board. Next, she trimmed away the caramelization on the top of the cakes and balanced out the 2 cakes so they were the same height. Then she crumb-coated the cake with my Mocha Buttercream icing to help all the little cake pieces stick to the cake before doing the final icing layer. She decided to go ahead and put the thicker coat of icing on right away and then cleaned off the cake board to make it look pretty. I wanted Xanthi to give the D&D game board that old rustic look to it, so I asked her to crumple up some wax paper and smooth that on top of the cake and kind of rub her hands across it. But we forgot to cool it long enough before taking the wax paper off, so all it ended up doing was pulling up the icing. Xanthi had first planned on using black icing to draw all the lines for the grid on the board game, but we decided that it would be very busy and it would be hard to see, and that the board game itself actually doesn't have specifically black lines, it's just a darker line. So instead, what we decided to do was take a bread knife and flip it so the nice soft round part was on the bottom, and use that to cut the icing into lines and into a grid to make the game board. Xanthi had mixed up some black icing from the Mocha icing and put it into an icing bag ready to pipe. Now that the Dungeons & Dragons game board grid was completed, she took the black icing and piped on the iconic Dungeons & Dragons compass onto the corner of the board game cake. After she completed the D&D compass, she took my offset spatula and smoothed down the edges of the board game. The Dungeons & Dragons board game cake was now complete, but it was a little empty. So I asked Xanthi what she thought about the idea of making the compass into the number 6 and adding a 1 beside it to represent the 16th birthday. At first she wasn't too keen on the idea, but I insisted and she started to draw it out. And at the end she actually really liked it. And of course we had to write "Happy Birthday, Quinn." After that, I had my daughter make my homemade marshmallow fondant recipe so that we could make the Dungeons & Dragons dice to go with the game. We grabbed my son's Dungeons & Dragons dice and we took a look at them and tried to figure out how exactly to replicate that from Fondant, which was not an easy task. We started by first dyeing the fondant the same yellow that the dice were, and then putting in darker yellow so that we could marble it. Then Xanthi rolled it out and broke it into smaller pieces for each die. As you can see, matching up the dice with the fondant was not an easy task, and this was one of the simpler dice to do. Yeah, they didn't end up looking exactly like D&D dice, but they were close enough. Xanthi took the leftover fondant and made it into a car because of course Quinn was turning 16 and so he's going to start getting his driver's license. She used 2 toothpicks to make the windshield wipers. Then all that was left to be done was to put the D&D dice onto the Dungeons & Dragons game board cake and to put the car on top. And that's how my daughter Xanthi and I made the Dungeons & Dragons board game cake for my son's 16th birthday. Xanthi and I were so happy with how it turned out, but more importantly, Quinn was very excited to have his Dungeons & Dragons board game cake for his 16th birthday. And as for Quinn's driving lessons, well, this should be fun.
head over here to the Mocha Buttercream icing recipe and see you over there. Or you can also check out my newest video over here.